It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Let's go to one smart guy, one common sense guy. Rita, introduce Bill O'Reilly.
All right, we have the great Bill O'Reilly, of course, the host of Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly every weeknight here on WABC Radio, 9 to 10 p.m. Mega best-selling nonfiction author. Bill, what was your reaction first off to the big boy press conference as it was billed?
That was the worst performance I've ever seen of journalism on the national level in my entire 50-year career.
I agree.
Those reporters, I would have fired every single one of them had I been the head of their companies. They did not zero in on specific questions asked in a simple way. And we went over it with Sid yesterday. Before the press conference, I've got 10 of them. Like, Mr. President, on your watch, there have been 36% more drug deaths in the United States. Why? Mr. President, 3 years ago, you assigned Kamala Harris to find the root causes of illegal migration. What did she report back to you?
I don't know.
That kind of stuff, you know? So what they do in the White House Communications Office is this. They have a meeting. They know who's going to be in the room to ask the questions. They decide beforehand who will be called. They do that based upon sympathies. So there was a French reporter that they knew was very pro-Palestine and would ask a question like that. And so Biden was prepared for that question. They called on a couple of reporters who hate Trump. They knew that they would get a hate Trump comment in, and that would take the heat off Biden. So Joe Biden may understand in general terms what's happening in the country and the world. I can't say he doesn't understand that. But he cannot process information. I'll give you one very clear example. So when Richard Haas, who's a liberal Democrat, by the way, and should be identified as such, he's identified as this big shot foreign policy person. He always comes at it from a liberal point of view 100% of the time. So he said, no. Biden, very clear, very good grasp of foreign policy. Let me just quote you what Biden said yesterday. Is Putin ready to talk? I'm not ready to talk to Putin unless Putin is ready to change his behavior. 3 paragraphs later, Biden says, I think I'm prepared to talk to any leader who wants to talk, including Putin, if he calls me and wants to talk. That's in the same answer. The man does not know what he is saying from 1 second to the next. Now, people get people's names wrong. Okay, he calls Zelensky Putin. Unbelievably embarrassing, but it happens. Then he calls Kamala Harris Trump. Then he doesn't even hear the mistake in his head. Doesn't hear it. Whereby most of us, when we make verbal mistakes, we hear it and then correct it. Right? He doesn't hear it. So at this point in our history, in American history, if any American pulls the lever for Joe Biden in November, and I still don't think he's going to make the ballot, you're voting against your family and your country because this is not going to be the president. All right? Even if he wins, he's not going to make the 4 years. So you're voting for Harris, who's more dangerous than Biden.
How can it seems complicated. How did it? Joe Biden right now seems like he says, I'm not leaving. Harris is the heir to the throne if he does leave. And a lot of the people that pledged money to them are now saying, we want our money back, or our pledge is no good because we're not buying what we expected we're buying.
Well, careful with that. So the New York Times wants Biden out because they hate Trump so much, and they have calculated that Trump could beat Biden. Okay. So they've editorialized twice that Biden has got to go. This is the New York Times, the leading liberal newspaper in the country. Then they convinced George Clooney to write that op-ed. Clooney didn't call them. They called him. And before Clooney wrote the op-ed or had somebody write it for him, that's more likely, he called Barack Obama, and Barack Obama signed off. We all know that. So today the New York Times comes out and says Democratic donors are holding up $90 million to Joe Biden because they don't trust him any longer. It's all anonymous sources. There's not one name attached to the article, which is what the New York Times does. So I don't particularly believe that, John. It could be true, but going forward, it is how anybody could fund this Biden operation, knowing the man simply cannot do the job based on what he's already done, which is create havoc on the border and in our economy. And I mean havoc. When your gas prices are up 35% and your food prices are up 23%, that's havoc.
Food prices are up more than that, Bill.
Yeah, and you know because you own the food.
Yeah, well, I know what I'm paying for it, too.
Yeah. So that's havoc on working Americans. Don't tell me inflation's going down or it's Trump's fault.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of the supermarkets, a lot of the drugstores are losing money because the price of the product went up. We raised the price. But the fact that nobody realizes security problems, shoplifting used to be 1.5% of sales traditionally. Between extra security and extra shoplifting, that number is up to 6%. So you can't charge enough for the product to make up that difference. And
that's an urban problem. In Casper, Wyoming, they don't necessarily have that.
Wegmans is closing up 2,600 stores in the whole country, and
so
they're in every place.
But I'm a simple man, okay? Was there one question in that press conference about the price of food? One? No, there was not.
I don't think he realizes that. He's blaming that we're making a lot of money and he's raising prices. We're actually losing money.
The greedy corporation. But John, he doesn't care. He has never cared. He wants power. So does his wife. You're not dealing with a politician here who actually cares. That's the argument the Democrats make about Trump. But Trump doesn't care. It's all about his self-aggrandizement and him being in the spotlight. But if you look at real wages, which is really the only economic indicator that matters in this country, that means wages that you take home pay. They were up almost 8% under Trump despite COVID. They're down under Biden. And was there one question about that? Real wages? No. That press corps in there, I mean, believe me, I know what I'm doing. You guys know that. I know what I'm doing in the world of journalism. That was a disgrace.
Bill, by the way, Bill, also border because he lumped it in.
They let him ruminate about meeting with the president of Finland in his office. Who gives a fig? Who? People in Helsinki? And this is what you get? And then today you have to listen to all this garbage about, whoa, Joe Biden made it through. Oh, hey. Could have made it through that press conference, and he would not have screwed up Kamala Harris with Donald Trump, the 8-year-old.
I agree, Bill. And to your point about the press, they should have asked more poignant questions. He went in the same answer where he said, "Listen, inflation's down, the economy's better. I'm the one who sealed the border a sense. You know, it was Trump who did," and they didn't challenge him on any of that.
But the worst was this. The one specific question that was asked are you going to take a cognitive test from an independent physician? And he goes, I take a test every day. Well, you flunk every day. Okay? If that's the test, hang it up and go to Delaware. Because you're the second worst president in our history. And if you look at the numbers, he is. because he doesn't really care to solve any problem. Let me ask the panel. You guys are all smart. Has Joe Biden solved one problem? Give me one problem he solved.
Well, let me go to the in-house Democrats here. We have Governor Patterson and we have Judge Weinberg.
Give me one problem Joe Biden has solved. One.
Dead silence.
I'll take the fifth.
Governor Patterson took the Fifth Amendment.
They solved one problem, the Biden family wealth problem.
Yeah, all right. But you know what I'm saying.
Make the Biden family wealthy again.
I cannot disagree with you, Bill.
If you had a legitimate press conference where the press was actually interested in bringing information to the American public and providing perspective, you would ask that question.
You know, Bill,
one major problem.
Hold on, Governor Patterson is about to respond.
Yeah, you know, Bill, we were talking about this before. When I heard it was going to be a big boy press conference, and I've seen these press conferences where the focus is on the candidate who's in the middle of it and people are firing questions at him. This press conference was on his home court. It's, at NATO. He's standing up as if he's giving the State of the Union speech, and only after 35 minutes does he let the press even talk. So I thought that it was so organized.
Yeah, manicured.
Manicured.
Yep.
It was just set up so that he couldn't fail. And then on top of it, that the few people got to ask questions, really didn't ask any hard questions, was the real problem. But I think the worst thing that he has said is that only the Almighty can stop him from running for president. So then clearly he sees himself as being spiritually superior to the rest of us.
I didn't take it that way, Governor. Joe Biden is going to say what he's told to say. He always has. And they're telling him now, dig in. And particularly his wife. He would have been out of there a long time ago if Joe Biden had any perspective or any feeling for her husband or the country. And I know that's harsh. But to put through that man who obviously cannot run the country through this grueling criticism, and he's not going to make it. I mean, there'll be more and more people once they start the internal polling, which shows right now that Biden's behind in every swing state. This Marist poll is bogus today. Ignore it.
Yes.
Okay? The Pew poll has Trump up by 4. But more importantly, you have to understand the population centers of California and New York and Illinois give Biden a close race. The Electoral College is not close. That's why and Ron Klain and the others, even though Klain's playing a double game now, okay, that's why they want Biden out, because they're looking at the electoral map, and they're going, Trump's going to cleave off 4 or 5 of these states. Biden's not going to get a single vote in the Bible Belt or in the Middle West, except for Colorado, which is totally insane now. Okay? So we got to get him out of there because we're going to lose.
Bill O'Reilly, we got to go on to a break. Thank you so much for coming on, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Bill, thank you. We love you. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks for having me,
I
guys.
think we take one right now. All we can do is take one day at a time and see how did the British say it? Things sort out. How do they sort out?